Hello, everyone. So, in this episode, I'm going to chat with Zara on how her journey is from an industry research lab to academia and also a move from United States to UK. Hi, Zara.
Hi, thanks for having me here.
Yeah, great to have you here. Can you just share a little bit about yourself so that our audience know who you are?
Sure. So, Zara Montazeri, I'm now assistant professor at University of Manchester. I've been also a consultant at Disney Research during my academic journey. Before that, I was a R&D at ILM, and starting from San Francisco and then transferred to London. Then graduated my PhD from University of California, Irvine. And during my PhD, if I go back chronologically, I got the pleasure to work in a lot of industry and research groups, including Loxion. Almost 2 years, I had the pleasure to work with Professor Henrik Jensen, and then Pixar, DreamWorks, the year before that, X year. So in total, I had 5 internships in a 6-year PhD. Yeah, and if I go even further back, I graduated from Sharif University in Iran for my bachelor's.
Yeah, that's a lot of internship in your PhD.
Yeah, what happy to do it.
Yeah, so let's talk about your most recent experience of transitioning from an LM to a professor in University of Manchester. So how did you make that decision?
That's a very good question because I also don't know the answer. I was not prepared for academia and I had no intention, honestly, for academia. I was always interested for industry job. And as you can see from my internships and always my own interest, I was always going for industry. And the opportunity came up once we moved to the UK as a assistant professor job in University of Manchester, and I should tell you this was the only application I sent for for academic job, and I had 100% acceptance rate. So because that was the only one. But I wasn't sure at that moment, honestly. And once I moved out from ILM, I stayed with my connection with Disney Research folks, and gladly I could continue the project with them even when I started in academia in University of Manchester, because I wasn't sure about how will I like this job. And I had the pleasure to continue my work with Disney Research for about a for about a year so far. So it was like 10% of my time with industry, but that was like apart from my full time at university. So it not like an adjunct professorship. It was like during my weekend or work time outside of the working hour. It turned out very well. It was a very smooth transition for me because if it was an abrupt transition, I wasn't sure how would I like it. But now I'm pretty sure, and I kind of finally made my decision in a piece that academia is what I want, and I'm very happy that I made this transition. I can talk about my job for the whole day, but I would let you to direct the conversation, whichever suits this podcast better.
Great. So you mentioned basically now you have been a professor for a year, and then
Yeah.
you also meanwhile you are part timing with Disney Research, and like 10% of your time to do research. We can come back to that. I'm very interested in talking about that experience. But before we do that, I want to just dig a little bit deeper. So you say you had no intention of looking for academia job, but then this opportunity came up and you apply. That means like what prompts you to apply? Like if you are super happy with your job at LM,
I
why
know.
would you apply? Like it's not like you have to.
Yeah, that's a very good one. So the only reason is that I was more interested in San Francisco, and that was like a plan. And ILM in San Francisco was my dream job. And then my husband got this position in Manchester, and then he is also assistant professor, and he moved. And I was like, if I don't want to go do in San Francisco, I had the option to transfer it to London. But then again, it would be remotely working from Manchester, which is like 2 hours away from London. So this kind of break up my ideal job. So so ILM at San Francisco wasn't on the table anymore. It was like a remote working from Manchester with San Francisco, which is not. I also wasn't prepared for that that much as well. I think that was one of the reasons that if I want to stay in Manchester, which it worked out working with San Francisco remotely, but then this was like all a new world to me, because now I was in the University of Manchester because of my husband. So I got to go to his office and I got to see how a junior academic's life is. And honestly, I got a bit tempted with seeing him in this new position. So he started few months already, and then I also got into it, and then I was referred to a position and I applied. So yeah, it wasn't well planned because we didn't have any intention to move into the UK. So that wasn't on the table when I kind of finalized my job. And then our moving out from California opened up some other opportunity. And then I started to think about academia.
Yeah, this is so cool to know, because in my experience, when I talk with other people, mostly they will say, if they want location flexibility, they will go to industry because they can work hybrid or remotely. But in your case, because you're far away from the team that you originally want to work with, so you had to give up your industry job and then find an academic job. So that's super interesting. Yeah. And another thing I want to just follow up on is Disney Research. You talk about you're working with them 10% of the time. So what do you do in that 10% of the time? Like, if suppose we work 40 hours a week, that's like 4 hours every week. So what do you do in that 4 hours?
Yeah, so it was like a small project on doing literature review and some project that I could help in terms of paper reading and potential research coming up. So this was planning for a research project, but then so yeah, I'm not sure if I'm is that okay to share, but I got laid off recently because of the recent recession with the Disney stock. So Disney had 13% drop in the stock, and they ended up laying off a lot of people. And as understandable as everyone can see, researchers like R&D are kind of in the top of the laying off, and me as a contractor was also. So it's understandable, but it went all good. I mean, it was very beneficial for me to start, and I was on a contract base for 10% anyway, so I wasn't expecting to not be among that group being laid off anyway. So it wasn't a good. It's at the moment with all the Disney stock, it's not a very.
Yeah, I think it's I think there's a lot of public information, like the stocks, the layoffs. It's not news these days, so I'm pretty sure
it's not new anyway.
Yeah.
So it's
I'm
not...
sorry to hear that you got laid off from your contractor position. And for all the listeners out there, like, I think it happens to some companies and some labs. It depends. For Adobe Research, we don't see a huge layoff yet. At least publicly, we haven't started any layoff, and we are still continue our hiring. So. It depends. Like, some research lab may have a tighter integration with the product. Some research lab more forward looking. It depends on the profit or cost. Like, it's all complicated.
Yeah, it's based on all group. It's not personally. So I was told, don't take it personally. This is how it happens, and I definitely understand it. The fun part about it is that I had a visit recently to California. And during my time over there, I got to visit a lot of friends, and they were all talking about laying off and all the stress about the industry staying in California, because all my friends ended up in industry. And I was like, oh, this is what I'm now missing in UK, because everyone is chilling out here. I mean, there's no stress whatsoever. And I was like, this is a California vibe that I had missed during the past year. During that week, I got the same email with laying off myself as well. So that was like the full package of California experience. I'm now here getting the experience of industry and how competitive it is. So I should tell you that in the UK, people are so chilled out. I mean, for me, having the experience living in California, it's not even comparable.
Yeah. Do you think it's the Silicon Valley versus Manchester, or industry versus academia, or both?
No, not industry versus academia, I would say. Academia itself is quite stressful, no matter where you are, because it's like an international. At the moment, I do collaborate with anyone other than the UK. So I do work with New Zealand, I have worked with Europe, US, so it's not bounded. But if you're in industry, then you can kind of attach it to a nationality or a particular country. But it's definitely about the country. So I can clearly see the vibe of the culture, and people here prioritizing their own fun and family and health rather than work, which, yeah, I mean, it's very different. I still tend to stay in my California zone, and my colleagues keep reminding me that, yeah, go home. This is not California. So yeah, I mean, I like it. I mean, I do like the dynamics in California. I do like the fast pace of California. So I'm not planning to adopt European culture. Maybe so far so good.
It's glad that you are still like collaborating with California collaborators and like West Coast United States people. So that's great.
Yeah, that's the beauty of academia, I would say.
Yeah, that's great.
So maybe it's a good time I can add this here. Sorry, I'm not letting you to ask. I just bring it up myself.
Great, even better.
So yeah, I mean, speaking of the freedom in academia, I had this Disney research project, and then on the side I was working with Weta Digital from New Zealand, and I still do. And then I had some other projects again with Luxion and some other stuff on the table. So these are all kind of separate industry related kind of project that you can have, and they are, as long as your project is defined in a way that they don't overlap it directly. So this is all possible because you are in academia. If I were in industry, I would have been much more restricted in terms of the project, who I collaborate with. And that's what I like, because now I get to work with whoever I want, no matter where they are coming from. So I see a lot of opportunities, at least in my first year, that I can work with different industries and different academics. So this is like a never-ending opportunities. I like it so far, so good.
That's great. I wanted to add to that. It is really easy for academics to take a part-time jobs in an industry company, and then after signing some NDAs, they can get to the knowledge of all the company that owns, so that you can collaborate. But then I want to say that maybe sometimes companies don't reveal all the information to part-timers. Maybe that's one case, or in sometimes it is available, but because a professor only spends a small amount of time in a company, they wouldn't get the full picture. At least they wouldn't get the full context of what's happening. So I think in the beginning, it's great, like you're working on individual project level research. But as people ramp up, it will be harder and harder to get deeply involved in multiple companies with multiple projects. Like it's hard to imagine, I don't know, I'm just using some famous people as example. Like you can't imagine like Jeff Dean probably is not a good one. Maybe Jeffrey Hinton, yeah. Spend part-time at Google and Facebook and Apple. I just don't think that that's possible, because the scope of their project is so intertwined with the company. It's no longer like technical, solve this particular one problem. It's more like imagine the future, and then that usually requires deeper commitment. And at that point, professor either go like half time or 80% time with companies, and then kind of leave their academic lab struggling or whatever. Yeah, that's what I've been observing, the trend. Yeah, but it's right that to start with, it's totally okay to collaborate with multiple companies to know which direction you want to pursue.
Yeah, this is like more of a collaboration on research. So what we now do with Weta folks in New Zealand is that it's a research project aiming for long term, and they would sponsor or support the grant that I apply for from the government here. So that gives me a higher chance for
Great.
getting money from the UK government when they see there is a industry backup. So this is like how you can manage your granting stuff as well, which I found very, very hard and complicated so far. That's like the most challenging bit of my job, honestly, currently.
Yeah, that's thank you for sharing. I think in the remaining 5 minutes, want to limit this to 20 minutes recording. So in the remaining 5 minutes, can we talk about your previous internship experience at various companies? Because I have only interned twice in my PhD, and both, once at Disney Research actually, and the other one at Adobe Research where I work right now. And both are very publication driven for interns. And for the full-timers, my mentors at the time, they were thinking about how to transfer technology into product and so on. But as interns at the time, I was encouraged to just think about research and publication. What was your internship? I think you had like 6 internships. What are they like? Can you share a bit more about that?
Yeah, so among 6 of them, 2 of them were related to research and aiming for publication. My first few years, I didn't do much of research internship. It was more of an engineering job. But even those, they learned me a lot. So I was very happy. I now feel that what I learned most, apart from the technical side, is how they mentored me to prepare for a project in such a short time. Now that I'm doing a supervision of my PhDs, I have like 5 PhDs in my first year. That's like too many, but I'm very glad and I'm really pressured to supervise those PhDs, and I need to learn how to help out as a mentor, as a supervisor to those. And if I didn't have that many supervisors, because if you do a PhD, then you would get at most 1, but I had a lot of mentors in my life that I learned from each of them. And now I try to repay the debt of gratitude and kind of do what I have to do in order to leading a project. So what I've seen from my internships, what those internships prepared me is to how to manage a project. And I think apart from the technical side, of course, having a leading skill set is what I owe from my PhDs that now directly help me as a supervisor.
That's great to hear. I want to double tap on the point of working with multiple mentors throughout your PhD. Like now that I'm also in this mentoring role, I mentor interns every summer. And most of my previous interns, they are great interns, they're great researchers, and I hire them back again. I would hire them back again and over again. But usually after second time, I would encourage them, hey, next summer, I'm happy to have you again. But for a third time internship, you might want to find a primary mentor that's different, so that you can learn from them the different mentoring style. I think I'm the best mentor out there, but I'm biased, obviously. You should try out different mentors, either inside our company, that would be great. But if you're interested in other companies, that's great too. You get to know their culture, how they run the research lab. And that's what I always do, like get more exposure to the interns so that when they step into the role, eventually, either as a professor or as an industry researcher, they would need this kind of understanding and learning. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
The more experience, the better. You can always learn something from whatever. So yeah, I'm happy. Any of my internships, any of the steps that I had in my previous life, I'm not regret for any of those moments. I'm pretty sure everything that I've done helped me somehow in my job currently or in future. So I wouldn't think anything wasted. This would be something that I wish I could have thought about it years ago. Someone would remind me that this is gonna pay off. Just move forward. This is what you do. What all the hard work you put in, it's gonna pay off in future. Don't think of it as a wasted. So now I feel that, oh, that's right, because everything would be handy at some point in life.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. Well, I think we're towards the end of our 20-minute slots. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comments down below. And if we have many of them, then we'll invite Zara back again to discuss the follow-up questions. Thanks, Zara, for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, all right. Bye.
Take care. Bye.